Hi. Where are we? There's the camera. Hi, welcome to VONsense. My name is George Passariello. This is
Joe Quadara.
And we have a special guest with us today.
Glenn Yost.
Glenn Yost. He's running for the Assembly seat on the South Shore. We're very excited to have our second guest of the VONsense podcast. Today, we're going to talk about politics. We have Glenn here, and we're going to talk a little bit about history, because I know Glenn's a history buff. And most of all, we hope to engage the audience today on why they should vote, why they should get involved in politics, and why all of this matters. I'd like to start the conversation talking about Dan Donovan and Max Rose. They have an upcoming race. Max Rose, who is seen as an outsider here on Staten Island, is running on the Democratic ticket. And Dan Donovan, who is a long-sitting congressman here in Staten Island, looking to be reelected. And my question I'd like to pose to Joey and Glenn is, does Max Rose have a shot?
Well, I'll start off just by saying, after watching the debate, I think he's a likable guy. And I think that actually matters more than it ever used to. I think back then, maybe it always has been this way, but it seems like qualifications and who you are and what you've done and your experience in politics matters a little bit less now, and kind of being able to connect with the voters is much more important. But
I think that's particularly true in Staten Island. You hear the phrase, I got a guy. I think they invented it for Staten Island. People don't necessarily vote on who can do the job best here in Staten Island, but who they trust or know longest and have a sense of community with. Is that the right choice? Is that the way to go?
Yeah. Or even if you don't know him too well, and he seems like someone that you can have a relationship with, or someone you can actually call on the phone, which I think Max Rose did a good job at kind of being that guy at the debate. That's what matters for a lot of people. So, but I mean, what do you think?
I like Max's energy. He's an energetic guy. I don't know if his background really qualifies him for this particular position. Dan and I have been friends for a long time, and I know Dan personally and professionally. And, you got to think about this. He was an assistant district attorney for many years. He's a lawyer. He also was the deputy borough president here in Staten Island, so he's dealt with a lot of issues in the community just in that particular sense. And then, of course, he became the district attorney, the lead law enforcement for Richmond County for many years, and now has served in Congress, rightfully so, and has, in my opinion, done a great job. I didn't see Max Rose really bringing out any big negative issues against Dan, or in contrast, what Max proposes to do if he were elected. And again, last night I was at that forum, the candidate forum. Is it the South Shore?
South Shore Civic Association,
yeah,
with Janine Materna. She does a great job, so
really,
we appreciate that.
It's very nice to have that, here in Staten Island, and engaging people. But, it really turned me off. Somebody asked Max about the Kavanaugh justice, appointment. And so, he was pretty hot about not liking what went on with the Republicans, and that there wasn't a longer investigation, and that he would not have supported Justice Kavanaugh. So that was a bit of a turnoff to me. But anyway, I think that Dan's doing a great job, and I'm sure he's going to be reelected this year.
Yeah, I mean, does a Democrat ever have a shot in Staten Island? Do you think the party is? Do you think this is a party line community?
Well, we had John Murphy years ago, right before he got involved with Abscam, and then Molinari came in. Guy Molinari came into office, and then Susan, and then Vito Fossella. So there's been a long run of Republicans, including Michael Grimm, of course. We can't forget him.
Of course not.
And then on to Dan Donovan. So, the seat has changed hands quite a bit. But, at one time, though, it was held by a Democrat. And well-liked, by the way, a very conservative, real true Staten Island guy, John Murphy.
Yeah, I'm so unfamiliar with John Murphy's reign on Staten Island. It was just a little bit before I cared about politics. It was more about going to keg parties and getting in trouble with Father Ansaldi from St. Joseph by the Sea, pulling me out of those keg parties. So it's hard for me to imagine a Democrat at this point in Staten Island politics, but I vote for a candidate. I vote for who I think is going to do the best job. And if I ever saw a Democrat that I thought really would do the best job, I think I can cross that line. I don't know if Staten Island can. I don't know. You're young. You're in a different generation. Do you even? You didn't get into politics until you really started working here, and now you're almost obsessed with it.
Yeah, I can stand by that statement for sure. I mean, a funny thing the other day is I said I was George, I was home kind of early from work and just relaxed, and I was thinking of something to put on TV, and the first thing I thought to put on was a political debate. I said, wow, things have changed since college and since I started working here. But for me personally, it is about connecting with the person. I know one example I always use and we always speak about is Larry Sharp, someone who got up there and never knew his name, never knew who he was, didn't know anything about the Libertarian Party at all, did a good job, and then I could see myself voting for someone like that. And that's just one time meeting him, and then looking at some of his content on social media. So yeah, I'm a registered Republican, but I vote for the candidate.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people my age would say the same.
Yeah, I hope more people would. And the party system that we have now, this two-party system that
right.
supposedly is in place. Thank God. To me, America and Staten Island and politics in general should be about choice. It should be about primaries. There should always be a primary to me. Anytime a candidate goes clear through, I think we're selling the community short a little bit. So I loved, to see your primary run on the Republican ticket. Everyone, of course, knows and loves Mike Riley because they know him from the community and from his Facebook activities. But to me, that was selling Staten Island short, just having one choice. And I think the party might have, been more open to allowing a third, a primary to happen, so we have a choice.
Right.
And you're running on the reform line. First, can you educate me a little bit about the Reform Party? I'm not that. I get the basic principle. They want, change and choice in government. Maybe you can give me some insight as to Glenn. I don't know if Joe, if you know anything, please chime in too. Give me some insight as to what the Reform Party is about, and why is it a good thing to have this party exist?
Yeah. So firstly, the Reform Party is obviously about reforming government, making voter accessibility easier. Hopefully, one day, I think their position may be that people can actually vote online. We make banking transactions online. We can wire transfer money online. We can do a lot of things online which is safe, secure, and we know what's happening. So that would be a way in the future to start making things a little bit easier. Accessibility is one of the key things there.
That's a big deal to me, too. I always pondered that, even as a young man. I grew up in the computer generation. I was born at the time where the IBM PS2 hit the tables. And I saw technology advance, and there's always talk about fraud, and if we put it online, there'll be some kind of mass fraud that will happen, and it will be hackable by the Russian government or somebody along those lines. And to me, I'm sorry, my phone's going off. Mm-hmm. Go kill that for me, Joey. Well, you can tell this is a live cast. So I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about?
The Reform Party and accessibility, computer.
Accessibility, and we have this amazing technology in the world now, where I can't see why when we're born we're not issued a social security number, a passcode, and a thumbprint that would make voting via phone or a voice print. Even now when I go to my bank, I don't need to enter a password anymore. I can just go, "Hey, it's George."
Huh.
And if I have that level of trust, TD Bank just started offering that feature. It's called Voice ID. So maybe each one individually is hackable, but adding several to the mix to give voters the ability to vote faster and easier is a big deal to me.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. I'm not to go off a tangent here, but I probably will. When we worked for Nicole Maliotakis during the mayor race, and one of the things that really bothered me was NYCHA. And again, not that people live in NYCHA. I think affordable housing is a necessary component of life here in New York. But the fact that their voting booths are in their home, they could just walk down the stairs and vote. And, I probably take some heat for this, but I believe people in a better financial position are less accessible to vote because they're usually in suburbia. There's less direct access to voting centers. And let's be frank, on a big stormy rainy day, Republicans don't come out as strong as they do.
I know that.
Yeah.
My primary was that rainy evening, if you recall.
Yeah, that's right.
And a Thursday.
Yeah.
Which
was another oddball.
And a lot of people thought I had just won and it was going to be an easy win for me, as you know, and then it turned out to be a little different.
Yeah, it turned out to be quite different.
But you're right about that. They make certain areas are easier to vote in, obviously, and largely Democratic areas. So those are Democrat strongholds. We all know that in the city housing developments. Those are Democrats who want to make it easier for Democrats to vote and to continue to get their support.
Except the tithes.
They give them a place to live at a rate that they can afford,
Or free.
Right. They give them food. They give them a place to vote. Who would you vote for?
Right.
So
And
that's De Blasio. And,
Right.
His administration, I think, even did it. They pressed it.
The Democrats have been doing that for years. I mean, since Lindsay, way back in Kennedy, started this housing project.
Oh, really?
Notion, yeah. And so that's the key, right? We give people something for free. We make sure they get used to it and they like it, and they don't have any drive of their own anymore because we take that away from them, right? Because we're like a barnyard duck. You just keep feeding the duck. He doesn't fly after a while. So, that is really one of the biggest problems, I think, forget about the city, but the entire country. So, we need to get people back on their feet, working again, and that's what Donald Trump is trying to do. Increase jobs, get people working. People say, well, they're starting at these menial jobs, but that's where you learn to work. That's where you learn a work ethic. That's where you begin your career.
It's like
right?
muscle memory.
And we've all had those menial jobs, right?
I've had too many of them. I think I have one now.
You're an important guy here. But that's the notion. But we have to start getting away from that. The city housing in New York City, I should say, and the welfare system here is really oppressing people. So it was meant to start to do something good for people as a benevolent thing from the government, but in fact has turned into what I call a cycle of pain now, where you have generational public assistance, and that's sad.
Yeah. What's
sad.
the quote in the Bible? You can give a man a fish. I'm going to say it wrong.
Right.
Father Riley at sea is going to yell at me. But you can give a man a fish and he can eat for a day, and you
Right.
can teach him to fish and he can eat for a lifetime.
Right.
And I think that says it all to me. That's we've created a generation of people suckling on the teat.
Yeah.
And becoming complacent with it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's very American.
Right.
It seems more Stalin-like to me, or socialist in a way.
Right.
It seems it's become a lot easier to complain about not having X, Y, and Z and not work than it is to just work and get what you want. Few people are willing and excited to go out and work every day, but you can have anything you want in this country as long as you just get to work. And that was something I grew up on, and I still believe in.
Yeah, and there are people that need it. I mean, I'm not saying that.
Right.
I look at, I'll give you an example. My sister owns a daycare here on the Staten Island, and I've seen people with Mercedes-Benz 560 SLs and fur coats pay with a voucher. And how does that happen in today's society? They're the ones that are actually ruining it for the true people that need it, and there are definitely people that need it. I'm a little crazy. I look at it in a more holistic way. We can't go and support ourselves on the land anymore, right? And there isn't an unlimited number of resources. I can't go out and hunt and fish for my meals. So there are people that are in a situation where they need the help. They can't decide, let me go hunt and fish. I can't find a job. Maybe they have mental illness. Maybe the job market's just tight for them. Maybe because of this generational issue that they've been just handed down from generation to generation, no advantage of work ethic or work in their family life. We have to give it to them, but at the same time, it can't be the permanent solution.
Right.
It's a leg up. You're having a problem. Let me help you get through this problem, like I would do for my neighbor if they knocked on my doorbell.
Right.
Hey, I lost my job. Hey, let me help you out.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll give you some rent
Right.
money this month.
No doubt.
As a good community.
Right.
But we've really changed it into come to America,
Right.
and you don't really have to do anything. You can kind of really enjoy a better life than you had where you're coming from. Because NYCHA, and this guy, no, I'm going to take a beating for this. NYCHA is, there's a lot of immigrants, legal immigrants, I'm not saying illegal immigrants, that if they were back in their country of origin, would be living under a lesser standard than NYCHA. So to them, this is amazing. This is a free ride, and they'll take advantage of it. They'll work off the books. They'll make cash on the side, and they'll maintain this free living, food stamp programs, and all these great things that we should continue to do for the people that truly need it. I think we need to find a better way to identify those people.
Right. There are always abuses, right? People take advantage of good things. But you recall, remember Giuliani started this workfare program?
Love it.
And he started to do just that. He started to interview each family and say, hey, listen, if you don't really have a disability
Right.
and your kids are in daycare or whatever that we're paying for, or the city's paying for, what have you, then you need to get a little job. And he got them jobs. They were working for the Department of Sanitation, menial stuff, but they were working. And so they were getting a salary, but paying less into their, they were getting less proceeds from the city, but they were working for somebody. And some of those folks, statistically, have gone on to real good jobs and have gotten out of that cycle of pain. That's what I call it, the cycle of pain, because they just keep receiving. And then after a while, what happens when you keep getting, you feel entitlement.
Right.
You feel this sense of entitlement that, everything's for free. And the housing center is usually near a public pool, a public library, public schools, like you mentioned before. Some people get food stamps if they require it and stuff like that. So, all the elements of their life are really being taken care of from the government, much like you mentioned, I think before, like socialism or something like that.
Yeah, our system is broken. It's broken in the way that I have a friend that has a kid. She's single. Her husband disappeared off the face of the earth, and she got government assistance. Rightfully so. She needed it.
Yeah.
And she was left in a lurch, and that's what emergency situations are. And she went on WIC and a bunch of other programs that helped her get through. And I said to her, hey, I got you a job. You want a job? She said, how much is it? And I said, it's $40,000 a year.
Okay.
And she said, that's less than my benefits.
Ah. Ooh.
So that's a trap. That I don't know how we fix it. I don't know if there is a quick fix to that problem. If we stop giving the assistance, the kids suffer.
Yeah.
But I saw her point.
Right. No doubt.
The only thing I can think of, and I think you agree, is the solution being charity. Right. We're both really involved in charity.
I love that. Yeah.
I've got my own charity. We're both in Kiwanis Club, and you're always involved in various community efforts. My thing is, so long that it's easy to start a charity and get involved in charity, there should always be some type of organization for multiple problems, and I think a charity should be able to help instead of the government.
Yeah, like
in certain cases.
Like Echo. We were at that Echo fundraiser, which was absolutely amazing. Good job, Civi.
Right.
And the whole team over there at Echo. They did an amazing job, and they do good work, and it's the Emergency Children's Help Organization. And these are, I don't want to speak for the members, but I know that a lot of them to be primarily Republicans, and everyone says that, I think that they decided to direct help people that needed it, and they interview them, and they go through a process, and they fill out some forms, and they validate that they need the help, and they get it immediately within days.
Right.
And anyone who knows somebody in a situation, look up Echo.
Yeah.
They will help you.
And there's a big process that you go through before you get that help, but once you do get the help, there's tons of people willing to donate, willing to, their time, their money. And I think that that's the easiest solution. I know it's easier said than done, but
Yeah, I think there's a degree of it are you forcing me to help people? Because if I help people every day. Like Joe said, we raise a ton of money for charity. We want our community to be a better place to live. We want people to be able to stay in our community and not have to move out because of high taxes. We want a medical emergency not to wipe a family out. So we chip in, and we do that voluntarily. But I think the moment you say, you have to help this person without giving me the choice on who I want to help. It gets a little twisted.
Yeah. I'm interested in your opinion about this from a more political and law standpoint, because I kind of connect these two things to taxes, right? So the higher income is, the higher tax bracket you're in, more money you have to give. Now, I think personally, the more money you're receiving on a yearly basis, just because I truly believe humans are looking to give back in some way. A lot of these big billionaires end up starting charities, end up giving back, because how much could you possibly do with all this money?
Right.
So how does charity come into play, and the taxes, and what do you think should be the standard for that? In terms of making more money, paying more to the government. No, it's kind of a tough question. I just threw a lot at you.
Well, it's compounded.
Yeah, it was a compounded question.
So firstly, we're talking about you're talking about, should there be more charitable contributions towards people who donate money?
Well, more so, my confusion, I guess, lies in how much do the two things relate? How taxes being higher for people who make more money, and how can government helping people and charity helping people be combined in a plan that may solve the problems?
Yeah, so we have to start from the very beginning, right? The foundation of government is that the government needs to provide services to its citizens. And so in order to do that, to have sanitation, the police, the fire department, teachers, all these things, we need to tax the communities, and then take that money, and exactly what happens, it goes into this pool, and then it gets divvied out. And that's, by the way, what the state legislature works on, as in the assembly, work on that budget, and so that's firstly. So the thing is, we have to watch government spending, number one. So we can't just keep giving all this away, because again, back to the very basic principle of government is that we have to tax our citizens to get the money to fund the services. So if we watch the services, or we stick to the budget, then we don't have to continuously tax and burden the hardworking people.
Right.
The notion about taxing people at a higher tax bracket, if you're in a higher tax bracket, is that you're able to afford such. So like where you have $1 million home and you're paying $10,000 a year in property taxes, someone with $500,000, who can only afford a $500,000 home, should only be paying $4,000 or $3,000.
Not half.
So, not half, but that's the way the system's kind of supposed to work. Unfortunately, we know, Assemblywoman Nicole Maley-Dacus and I have been pressing that, especially with the mayor. So what the mayor does is he has a budget. There's a good example. And what he does is, when he runs out of money, he then imposes this tax levy on our citizens, the city of New York, and raises the property tax for all of us, throughout the city, throughout the 5 boroughs.
To make up for that
To make up for his spending. Now he'll claim it's for services that, are needed, and others, like the Republican side of the aisle, will say, we're giving too much freebies away. We're giving, all this, pre-K, free pre-K. It sounds like a great idea, but it costs billions of dollars just to fund that kind of program. So we're back to that again. So how much, but I think, what we should have more so on a federal level too is those the people who you're talking about who contribute a lot of money.
Right.
They should really get that, that tax break, for charitable donations,
Right.
which we do, but it should be at a higher level. And I think you might see people donating more, because I'd rather give it to charities, honestly, than just have it taken and given back to the government all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good solution too. I think people would all rather do that. I exceed my write-off every year. So really, I'm paying the donation I make after I exceed that write-off is higher, right? Because now I'm taxed on it as income, but I'm still giving it.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are in that situation, especially Staten Island. Staten Island's a charity island.
It really is.
I've never seen such generosity. I've been around the country. I've lived in all 48 states at one point in my life. Never made Hawaii. Yeah, never made Hawaii. Never made Alaska. Never made Puerto Rico, but it's not a state yet. Maybe one day it will be.
Yeah.
And I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
It's kind of awesome. And Staten Island, unfortunately, is known for a lot of television series that get out there that, may depict us as a bunch of Staten Island Guidos and
Right.
mobsters. But the reality is 90% of the people out here are some of the most generous, awesome people I've ever met. Even the ones I don't like, they're good people. They go out of their way to help charity. I love that about Staten Island, and I think it is a good. Let us take care of each other. Let us be a community. Don't make it forced. Don't force me to take my tax money to give it to some program I don't believe in.
Right.
I didn't get to vote on it. I voted on my representative, but unfortunately, I don't know if unfortunately is the right word, but Staten Island's a Republican stronghold in New York, and the only one in all of New York, I think, right, or close to it.
Some in Long Island.
Queens, right, has a little outlay. We don't get our voice heard as much.
Right.
So as the minority, we're forced to go along with the majority, and
Right.
I think there needs to be some balance there. I don't know what the answer
You're
is.
definitely right about the sense of community we have here in Staten Island, and maybe it's because we're on an island,
Maybe, yeah.
and we are just almost isolated from a lot of other things. So, and we get to know each other at these events. That's usually the same couple hundred people that
Yeah.
always go to
Even
the
separate
same thing, right?
events, yeah.
And who could afford to do it, but thankfully, they look at their lives and say, listen, God's blessed me. I need to give back to my community, and there's a tremendous sense of volunteerism here in Staten Island, even for people who really can't afford to donate, but they'll donate their time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You remember that, like during Sandy was a
So
tremendous example.
amazing
of
to
that,
watch that.
right? And everybody from all over the island were helping each other. It was a really harmonious time, and people, of course, suffered so much here in Staten Island. But we do have a great sense of community here, and I think that's part of it. I think that's how we get to know our elected officials on a personal level. I mean, you have their home phone numbers, for goodness sakes, right here in Staten Island. We have that small town feel here,
Definitely.
especially on the South Shore where we live.
Sure.
And in Tottenville, it's just such a community. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe there is a connection there between, Staten Island does have a higher income than a lot of the other boroughs, and it's giving back a lot more. So, like I said, I truly believe people are inclined, if you have that extra dollar, to give it away. And maybe that's why the government should stop the forcing.
Maybe De Blasio should stop overtaxing our homes so we can give more.
That's why
to
we got to
charity.
put that cap. That's why I got to get to Albany and put that 2% cap. Is what that's what Senator Lanza. I work for Senator Lanza. Is talking about
Right.
putting the 2% cap on the mayor, because he's the only municipality in the state of New York that's allowed to do this. All the other townships need to stick within their budget. They can't run out of money and then all of a sudden say, hey,
Anymore.
we're going to go tax the people of whatever, Lynbrook, Long Island, whatever. So, that doesn't happen anywhere else but New York City. And, we get it. New York City is a big place. There's a big police department. There's all these different, events that go on and things that we have to continuously fund. But you have to stick within a budget, just like we do. We all live on a budget, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of everyday life. I wish I didn't have to live on a budget. I'd love to spend willy-nilly, but even billionaires have a budget. They can't spend over $1 billion. You can't spend what you don't have. Why is the city not? Is it because of the leverage of all the people that live here?
That's it. It used to be where the city would provide a lot of the resources for the rest of the state. Being the economic leader of the entire world, let's say, right? And all the other great things that we have here, the culture, transportation, a big job market here in New York City, especially the Wall Street people years ago, where there was tremendous amounts of money flowing in and out of New York City. And our shipping and all that stuff was all, bringing in
Too
revenue.
big to fail.
It was too big to fail. But now it's just it's too big to manage, I think, is really the key. It's so convoluted and so complex. I think that may be something we look at in the future, too, to break down the city.
Yeah, maybe
the
too
city
bad
of
the Staten
Brooklyn.
Island secession came really close. I think we were a couple of votes away,
But for
right?
Sheldon Silver.
Oh.
Sheldon Silver knocked it out.
Yeah,
Who's
thank
now in
God.
jail, So, and but by the way, talking about the Reform Party, that is one of the things that I like best about them. They want to reform a government where it becomes more transparent. So where you had people like Sheldon Silver, who was the Speaker of the Assembly for many, many years, and charged with corruption and indicted and sent to jail, what the Reform Party is looking to do is expose that, make it more transparent where people know what their Assembly people are doing, where they're going to meetings, who they're taking money from, what lobbyists they're meeting
Yeah,
with.
transparency saves the world, I
Right.
think.
In every
Right.
situation.
It's social
Relationships,
media.
Business, social media.
Well, social media ads, running ads for politics on social media now today, as opposed to when we ran Maliatakis for mayor, or we ran with her for mayor. we could post and run ads on anything we wanted during that mayoral campaign, and they've made rapid improvements to make it transparent. So now when you see a Facebook political ad, there's a little eye. You click on that eye, it tells you who ran the ad, when the ad was ran.
Okay.
You can go to your page, and there's an info and ads section that shows all the ads you've ever run for history. They don't get rid of them. And that stops things like fake Facebook pages. I don't know if you remember that scandal with Debbie Rose and Nicole Malley-Tax, and I think Janine Materna
on the South Shore, this assembly seat.
Yeah. Where I won't name the individual because he sued me for $25 million. But fortunately that went nowhere. Thank goodness. I'm glad that part of the dirt of politics has been removed with transparency. So if that's what the Reform Party's about, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
The more we see, the better. The more we know, the better. And that kind of rolls me into campaign finance reform thoughts, right? I'm going to pose this question to both of you from two different angles. Would it be great if we eliminated all campaign financing and turned to this is my concept. Turn to the airwaves, the radio, and the television, and as part of their broadcast license, force them to give an hour a week during election seasons to candidates, and skip the whole financing of campaigns. Even though I run a political company, I promise you we don't get rich off of it. We do it because we love community. We don't do it. We're not some highfalutin political consulting company. We really care. But I would love to see it eliminated. I really would. I think it would help purify politics. What do you think? I know a lot of people have beat me up on that too.
It's a good thought.
It's okay to beat me up.
So that would just be, there would be maybe like a series of events, right? Where forums, let's say, where you can debate, and maybe that's it. Maybe you have 2 or 3 debates with the 4 or 5 candidates that we're talking about.
Like the South Shore Civic Center.
Right. It's a good idea. I mean, the concept is good. How does that come about? And we gotta talk to the Reform Party folks about that. But and that would be mandatory by whatever broadcasting channels are out there.
Right. You want a license? You're going to give this time up, and you're going to allow your airwaves to be used for politics, and that's it.
How do we get to the voter that doesn't watch TV like myself?
Well, that's an interesting question.
I watch the History Channel and whatever.
Live streaming, cell phones.
Okay.
There are, and maybe I'm not thinking of the underprivileged on this one, right? I'm making an assumption everyone has an access to television.
Yeah, I think that everybody does. I think you're right. Either one way or the other. There's for adults, everybody has a phone at least, right?
Right.
So you could do it that way. You're the technology guys. You could do it.
You could watch, just about.
So there would be.
You want.
Let me get this straight. No more lawn signs.
Nope.
Right.
No more lawn signs.
So no more palm cards.
No more palm cards.
They can't.
You could do mailings. I mean, I think that would still be okay.
So where do I raise the money for that?
Well, that would have to come out of your own pocket.
Oh, okay.
If you wanted to do it, but I don't think it would be necessary if the playing field were level.
Well, then there comes a problem. Well, you said it comes out of your own pocket. What about someone who says, "Well, I don't have the money for that," and he's got a leg up?
Yeah. Well, that eliminates it. That eliminates that problem. There is no leg up for anyone. It's just becomes about issues.
Well, if Glenn has more money to send mailings than somebody else who doesn't have any money to send mailings, then that's already just another.
Well, if he's willing to risk his own personal finance for this job, it must be out of love of community.
Yeah,
and I know you have risked your own personal finance. So, as everyone, I think everyone that runs to a degree.
I just hope my wife's not going to be watching.
I'm sure, Sabrina, if you want to throw a few comments down below, go for it. A lot of people say, hey, you're running because you want to make your business stronger. I'm going to throw that out there, and
you guys know I have a small law firm. I have 1 secretary, 1 intern. It's a very small boutique kind of practice. I specialize in matrimonial law and family law. It's not like I'm making a ton of money. In fact, what would happen is I would have to decrease the size of my client base to tell you the truth. So it's not a financial gain in any sense to do that. And there's nobody that is going to run for the state assembly hoping to get more clients. I would just give you guys the money to do more advertising from the law firm's perspective, because truthfully, you know what? People want a full-time attorney just like they want a full-time assemblyman.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, so they don't want to hire somebody who's going to be in Albany. And don't forget, January starts the session and it ends in June, right?
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of people don't stay up in Albany. And you guys probably know, in the last 12 years, we've had 5 different assemblymen. 5. On the South Shore.
Crazy. That's telling
Yeah.
to me, actually.
Well, because you know what it is? People don't, first of all, there's people I know that have run for office that have never been to Albany. So they know nothing about the actual logistics of it, you know.
Right.
2.5 hour ride, and you're up there for 3-4 nights living in a hotel room, away from your wife and your children or spouse or whatever, right?
Cold weather.
It's cold,
to
it's
college
snow,
there.
you're driving on the thruway and blizzards and so on and so forth. And so after the first year, the excitement wears down. You know, people are just still calling you the assemblyman. Maybe that's what you wanted in your life. But then the reality sets in. You know, at the end of the day, when you're done writing bills and talking to people and going into session, you know, you're in a lonely hotel room. And so what happens is after 2 years, people say, hey, I'm not doing this anymore. It's just too much.
Yeah.
And especially, particularly if you have young children and a family, you know, family, it's
Yeah,
very
it's-
hard.
it
My
has to
children
be.
are grown, so,
Yeah.
and I've said this before to you, that, you know, Sabrina and I thought very long and hard about this before even entering the race. And of course, I learned from Assemblywoman Nicole Maliotakis and Senator Andrew Lanza, being around them, being up in Albany. It's a very difficult process, and it's a serious commitment. You know, you have to really seriously be committed to this and make it a lifestyle, because to me, it's more a vocation. This is not a salary. I mean, you know, it's an $85,000 a year job, you know.
Yeah, and you know how much of it I've seen Nicole, you know, personally donate to charity and get involved in the community because that's her nature. And you know, can you even raise a family on it? You know, probably not.
I don't think so today, you know.
You know, not as a solo income
No,
anyway.
it's not
possible.
You know, but I guess no one could really do solo incomes
Yeah.
anymore. It's getting harder and harder.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
This poor, I think about being him. And I remember when I was a kid, you could buy a home with one person working
Yeah,
and support that home so someone could stay home with the kids,
right.
male, female,
Yeah.
not a sexist thing, right?
Right.
Whoever can stay home and take care of the family.
Right.
And now we've turned it in. I don't know if there's, maybe it's even a circle jerk. Excuse the expression, but he, sorry, he, you know, if I have to get a job and my wife has to get a job, then our kids have to go into daycare and be, I don't want to say raised by a stranger. My sister owns probably one of the finest daycares on Staten Island. But it's not your mom and your dad.
Right.
And now, de Blasio, you talked about 3K, Universal 3K.
Yeah.
We're saying, you know, how old is 3K?
They're like 3.
They're
3 or 4
years
years
old.
old, right? Yeah.
3 years old, you're now turning over your kid to the city, who
Right.
is then taxing you to pay for the 3K program that you had to work
Right.
to pay for. Am I
Right.
reading that right? I
Right,
mean,
right.
that's kind of why
I think
my brain works
I
it
think
out.
it's free, actually.
It is free.
So it's free.
It is free.
But you're right, and you know, in our generation, when we were
But the
growing
taxes pay for it.
up, our taxes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Nothing's free.
But you and
And
I,
I don't
both-
have kids. I want my money back. Anyway, go.
So no, your point is, you were around the same age, and I remember growing up, you know, not too far from here, in Bullset, where those homes, it was with the high ranch they call it, you know,
Yeah.
mother daughter whatever. So you had a little apartment and whatever, and those homes were about in the late '60s, about 68, 69. They were about $22,000, $23,000 on, you know, a nice piece of property, and like you're right, there was like a bunch of cops that worked on my block, you know, that grew up with us, a fireman.
Right.
You know, most of the moms did stay home. So what the heck could they be making? But you know, the economy was so different, right? The
Totally
economy
different.
was just so different.
It was easier.
And now your generation,
He's a
you
trucker.
don't even hope to buy a home anymore, right?
Well, that's what I was just going to say. I mean, maybe every generation says this, but I feel
Right.
like now everything is so expensive. There's no, I mean, I can't move out of my house right now. There's just
Right.
no way.
Right.
You
Yeah.
get out of college, and I'm blessed not to have, you know, tons of student loans.
And
but if
he's
you do-
lucky if he finds something for $500,000 here in Staten Island, right?
That would be a miracle, and it would probably not
Right.
be that great.
Right,
You
right,
know?
right.
Not actually. I think I live in a house that's worth less than that, so I should be
Right.
careful. But I look at poor Joe. Speaking of that, hey Gina. I look at poor Joe, and I remember You and I, when I started working, I made the same salary you're making now. And that was back in the late 90s, mid to late 90s. I was able to move to Kentucky, buy a house. My wife stood home on the same salary you're making
Start
now.
a family if you wanted, but
And now that is absolutely out of reach. You have very little hope of doing that alone.
yeah, I mean, people would get married and start a family by my age, have 2 kids.
Maybe that's why people are getting married later and later now, too.
Yeah,
That's impossible. It's simply impossible for me to support a woman right now, move
Right.
out of my house, and then start thinking about supporting a child. I can't even imagine. I can't even afford to support myself, let alone 3 people.
Well, that's because you spent it all on charity.
And
I watch
clothes.
you. And clothes.
That's
Yeah, that was a nice time.
that got me the job, so that was worth it.
He always looks good.
You know, it's impossible. I mean, going out to eat or going to have a drink or two, everything costs so much money that it's simply impossible.
Yeah, and you know, we talked a lot about serious issues and politics, and I just kind of want to, kind of close this out into Staten Island talk a little bit. And I know you're a history buff.
Yeah.
And I heard you speak at NASA's house.
Jules Nassau, the movie producer. Yeah.
House, and you gave a little history lesson on the conference house. I was wondering if you wouldn't mind just sharing that one more time with us here.
So
our viewers can see.
I'd love to. I really do love. It sounds corny, but I love the conference house. I love the park.
Me too.
You do?
Adore it.
Yeah, it's a cute little home. It's stone.
I honestly knew nothing about it before me.
They have tours and stuff, and now in the fall they have different events, and of course in the winter they have Christmas caroling and so on and so forth. But I live right there, so I walk through there a lot. But I just so you know, what happened there is Ben Franklin and Sam Adams and a couple other guys came over right on that waterway there from Perth Amboy on a rowboat.
Just like the deer.
Just like the deer down. And so they met with the commanding officer of the military who was stationed here in New York. His name is Richard Howe. He met with him, and Mr. Commanding Officer Howe said, listen, we'll give you whatever you want. We'll give you a nice title. You can call yourself the Emperor of the New Colonies, whatever. We'll give you land grants as much as you want for you and your family. In fact, we'll give you a cut of everything we take in and out of the country as far as goods or whatever products are concerned.
Right.
And just, stop this nonsense, stop these skirmishes like the Boston Tea Party and things like that were happening right before then. And Ben Franklin goes back in the rowboat, goes back to Perth Amboy, travels down to Philly, and says, listen, this is what my offer was. I don't want to accept it. I want to be able to build our own country. Let's start thinking about this seriously. And of course, people were saying, you're out of your mind, I'm sure including his wife, right? And they found they found this guy named George Washington who had fought in some skirmishes against the British and won a couple of times. So they named him General George Washington, and he goes on to fight and win so many successful
And that
battles.
all spawned from the conference house.
From the conference house.
Yeah.
Right here in Tottenville.
You never hear them tell that story when I go to Philly or Boston
Oh,
to
yeah.
get the history tours, and I wish
No
they would.
textbooks say
Right.
anything about the conference house.
No, not that I know of.
But I think of that though. I mean, these, small group of guys, no funding, right? No military whatsoever, fighting the largest, wealthiest, well-trained military in the entire world.
Yeah,
They said that the ships, when they came through the Narrows, where now the Verrazano Bridge stands,
the 2 forts are.
yeah, but when the British came through there, they were just coming, you could see for miles and miles and miles, this fleet, these big old wooden sail ships coming through for miles and miles. And I can imagine, how intimidating that was, right? Standing on the shores of Staten Island or Bay Ridge or Manhattan.
Yeah,
And
and
they
I've
were
never seen a sight like that
Never
at a
seen
time where I think we had 1 ship.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering
Yeah.
right. We had like 1 or 2 ships in our fleet.
Well, then thankfully Ben got the
Yeah.
French involved because the French were disliking the British at the time. So it was really truly the French that helped us, supported us,
Yeah.
and we were able to fight with them and a few others. But the French were fantastic in helping us out.
Well, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? I think that's our relationship with the French. And Ben Franklin sure did like going to France.
He did.
He liked to party over in France. There's a lot of stories of
Right.
Ben's escapades, but he made friends,
Right.
and those friends really helped us
But when you think
save
about
our butt.
That's right. But think about one man. Like this is one man, right? Ben Franklin, who was up against such tremendous obstacles and odds, but who persevered for the betterment of our country. And that's pretty much what I think about when I run, because we have a Republican party, we have a Democratic party, we have this Reform Party, but literally no backing from my party, other than me being a registered Republican. My party's not really helping me. They supported somebody else. So I'm often reminded of that, that we need to just sometimes persevere, go through these things, and let the people, like they did back then, decide and get energized. And
we could never defeat that fleet of ships coming through the harbor, right? That was probably the first thing that entered people's minds.
They should have just laid down, right?
Yeah,
probably most people would have. Would have said,
sure.
forget about this.
You can't lay down. Never surrender, right? That was the phrase. Never surrender. I think a few people have said that.
Churchill, for sure.
Yeah, Churchill, and
Another great guy.
And FDR's speech, I think, during Japan had that smattering of that. We will not quit.
Right.
We will not surrender.
Right.
And I think.
I think you also said that at that all-you-can-eat buffet last week too.
I could get more sushi in, it's kind of magical, the conference house. I'm glad you got to tell that story. And there were a few other things that went on in that location, and the houses are all historic along that waterfront. And anybody who hasn't been to the conference house yet, go get a tour, check out the house, check out the waterfront. I can't wait till they rebuild it.
Gorgeous.
That gazebo was my favorite place on earth. I would sit down with a cigar at night. I'd go there at night, 7, 8 o'clock, cigar, and just relax and watch the ocean. And it was quite a sight. So I'm glad. I think they are rebuilding it.
It's almost done.
So I'm pretty excited.
You can always have a cigar in my man cave garage. We've sat in there before. Right?
I do like that too.
How to solve the world's problems from the man cave.
Yeah, usually I have to go out to my car and smoke my cigar, so I don't have a garage, and with the kids in the house, I can't enjoy them like I used to. But I'll take you up on that. And that's an amazing view too. That's all the homes down there are beautiful.
Yeah.
So get to the conference house.
It's great, and there's parking, George.
Tons of it.
There's a nice parking lot. There's a bathroom.
They did a
facility.
great job rebuilding that whole area too. When I was a kid, that was called the Second Left. And it was a shady place to go.
Oh, is that right?
It was called the Second Left because it was the second left. Any old school Tottenvillers, I know you're out there and you're going to go, yeah, I remember the Second Left. And it was a wooded trail with your car barely fit down it. And that's where everyone went to drink and do their drugs. And you didn't want to go near the place. It was pretty seedy. Now, it's like a day camp and it's a beautiful family place. And we came a long way. Tottenville's come a long way. I think it can go further.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to go on all day. I know you have plans for Tottenville too. And your Tale of Two Main Streets, if you go to Glenn Yost's Facebook page, the Tale of Two Main Streets video is something you need to watch. It hit me home when you did it. I wasn't there for it, so I can say that. I wasn't even there for the script writing of it. I think it just came out of you and Letitia talking about it. But it's true. There is a Tale of Two Main Streets.
Right.
And hopefully we get somebody in office who actually makes the change.
Right.
Instead of accepting that it can't be changed, because that's what I hear a lot. At least from the people, I hear it. I'm not pointing at any particular politician in general, but it is the politician's job to make the people believe that it can be changed, and that's where change begins.
That's where it begins, and it's true. But you also need somebody that's going to be committed to staying in the seat. Last night at the forum, I was asked about that, and I said, listen, I will commit to 8 years, because you need 2 to 4 years just to get noted up there.
Yeah.
And when you're just going to do 2 years, first of all, you're not going to know your way around, especially if you're not an attorney. You're not going to know how to write any kind of law.
Yeah.
It's going to take you weeks just to find where the drafting center is. And, and then to get that other respect from other members, they're only going to get to give you respect by you standing up and being.
And this is a democratic place to go, right? You're out of your element.
Democratic majority, right? As you know, right? So.
And a reformer could actually ride the middle pretty well.
I could be right in the middle, and I don't have to be beholden to party bosses, in the Republican Party or the Democratic Party or any.
Your real
special
boss
interest.
is the people.
Right. It's just the people.
Yeah.
So, hey, just like Donald Trump. Remember, he was running, and people said, "Listen, you're out of your mind. This is Hillary's time. She's going to win. She's been practicing this for 20 years, and you're gonna die out there. You're not going to do it." So he had the media against him. He had no party backing whatsoever, no political leaders helping him at all, right? And a media who, let's face it, despised him and mocked him at some point.
Still today, still now.
And
Still
now,
goes
look at
on.
But so what did he do? He went out every day. He persevered. continued on the battle, just like others I mentioned in history, Churchill and Ben Franklin and those other folks, but just never gave up and had the will of the people. See, that's the important notion here. The will of the people behind Ben Franklin. And that's why I mention it. Because it's the people that we can't lose sight of. Because of all these people in the South Shore, some people are disgruntled, as you know, with the Republican Party. They have disgruntled Democrats. We have 35,000 Republicans, about 27,000 Democrats. But this I didn't know, and I have to say embarrassingly, about 17,000 people call themselves blanks. So they're not affiliated with either party.
Right.
So if disgruntled people on both of those parties and the blanks come to me, there's no problem with us winning this election.
Yeah.
And people, you've heard it before. People just keep saying, we want to change, we want to change. But I tell you this, beyond the change, they want somebody they can trust. They want somebody with ideas. And you guys know, I've been doing this since May. I've been telling people about what I plan to do.
Yeah.
My opponent hasn't said one damn word about the opioid issue, about what he plans to do for transportation, about what he wants to do with education, about how to plan something to lower taxes here in Staten Island.
Yeah.
I'm giving some of that, and I'm not making false, empty campaign promises. I'm telling you, little changes, but we're going to make changes. All those changes will add up.
Yeah, I like you said that yesterday too at the film preview.
Steve Bannon.
Yeah, Steve Bannon. Who
Yeah.
I'll disclaimer with
Yeah.
not a giant fan of Steve Bannon, but nonetheless he had a documentary called Trump at War that you should Google it and watch it. I think it was really interesting.
Really well done.
Yeah.
It just obviously like. There's a motive behind everything that's issued out there, so I'm sure there's a motive behind this documentary. And like every piece of news I read, I take it with a grain of salt. But it's fascinating and it should be watched. I lost my train of thought. I went off on the Trump at War thing, and I lost my train of thought. It should be watched, and Trump, through it all, through the fake news, which I do agree. I believe the news is a disaster. Of epic proportions. I believe it's bias. News should just present facts, not give opinions. I don't understand opinions and news being in the same sentence. But somehow we have newspapers endorsing people.
Right.
What? Your job's to report the news.
You know about my confusion. I didn't even know that happened. I was like,
You almost melted when you found that
doesn't
out.
make any sense.
Yeah, and they won't let churches endorse, but they'll let. Maybe they do now. I don't know for sure, but they'll let that happen. So it's a little strange to me.
I think you were referring to something I was saying during my opening remarks there. About changes and about what people are looking for today, right? I think that's where we're going.
Yeah.
But how people really want to change. And so, listen, if the climate is right and everything aligns properly for this campaign, there's no reason we shouldn't win this thing.
Especially with the increased amount of people coming out to vote.
Well, that's a good point. So we have Max Rose, who is dumping money,
Right.
at a rate 5 times that of Dan Donovan. Still not going to be enough, unfortunately, Max, but at a rate 5 times Dan Donovan, which is going to pull out a record number of Democrats, and I believe blanks.
Right.
I believe people, people are looking for alternatives. So we have, those people, the Democrats being pulled out in record numbers by Cuomo and Max Rose and Mayor de Blasio. So we're going to have a very interesting election cycle. And if anyone says to themselves, well, I know who's going to win, I'm not going to go out and vote,
Right.
You're making a huge mistake.
Right.
I was told this when I was a kid, and I always went, "Shut up, ma," But every vote matters, and even if you know who's going to win, go out and show your support for the system,
especially
and for
on
the
a
community.
local level. I mean, it's a couple of thousand votes.
And how many people are going to come out in this election? I mean, who knows?
Right.
A lot more came out in the primary than I expected.
Right.
I'm sure we'll get a lot more on this one, but 17,000 blanks, I think, wins this
But
one.
we have the governor running. Let's not forget, right? The top of the ticket.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Mark
I think
that's a
Molinaro
big
is
point,
for
big
the
point.
Republican candidate is Mark
Yeah.
Molinaro. And of course,
And he's also a Reform Party candidate. Mark
he's a Reform
Molinaro,
Party
yeah.
candidate. Yeah, there's a bunch of us on the Reform line. Dan Donovan is there.
Dan's on Reform,
Yeah.
you're Reform, who else do we have?
Senator Lanza's on.
Senator Lanza, Shell, Look it up.
A bunch.
I don't know them all, but the Reform Party line, for those of you that say, I will not vote Republican.
Right.
There are a large portion of these people out there.
Mm-hmm.
I will not, or I will not vote Democrat.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You have a choice.
Right.
You have an option.
Right.
Find that option on your ticket. Obviously everyone knows I support Glenn's campaign.
Thank
so
you.
this is bias, but
Bias news.
get out there and
Nice.
and check the Reform Party line out. Reform Party is a really interesting party too. Again, I'm a staunch Republican, but I am also a believer in choices. Like I said earlier, and the Reform Party gives us a great choice. If they, at bare minimum, bring about change, the party really succeeded very well. And I'm hoping that they bring about change on this round with you on the
Right.
South Shore, because I know you. I got to know you during this campaign. I know how quickly you're going to get to work, and I know you said the small changes, and that's really what people don't say. I'm going to come in and I'm going to fix everything. No, you're not.
Right.
Fix one small thing at a time.
Right.
Do that for 8 years.
Right.
And it's a big thing.
Yeah, I'll finish off by just urging people my age to actually get out there and vote, because I never actually was even a little bit involved in politics, and you don't have to be full out like I am, because obviously my career is intertwined. But at least start to look into it a bit, get involved somewhat.
I'm going to take this call. Keep talking.
Right. See what comes of this phone call. That could be anything. But yeah, just start carrying.
And you were campaigning with me door to door.
Oh yeah.
And I'm hoping that you enjoyed all that. But you should know, we won your town there, your area,
Tides.
right?
Yeah.
We got that locked down, so we won that, and that was.
Sorry about that. I thought it was Frank Morano. That's why I picked it up.
Okay. So that was due to your efforts. We won the Tides. We won the Tides in his neighborhood.
Yeah,
Going
it's just-
door to door, campaigning hard.
Yeah, and it's kind of juxtaposed, because the young guy
Right.
was in the senior. It's not senior. It's,
No,
what's it
it's
considered?
Well, it was 50 and over for a while. It's a little
Yeah.
bit less.
What do they call that type of community again? I forget. But
Yeah.
it took a young guy, and you said, get young people out to vote. I see them complaining.
Right.
I don't care who you vote for.
Right.
I mean, vote for Glenn.
Right.
Yeah.
I
vote.
vote. Yeah, I believe what you're saying. Just vote. Go out and vote.
Yeah.
If it's me, obviously, I would like that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But to be engaged in this process is really crucially important.
Yeah, and I
Just to
think
get
one of the
engaged.
things,
Civic duty.
Yeah.
one of the things that I think pull people away from voting my age is that they feel like politicians are not human. Politicians are far away.
Yeah.
But Glenn and a lot of politicians I've met in this journey are just regular people. They have the same problems as you a lot of times. They're able to relate in a lot of ways. So once you start to realize that, you're like, wow, this could actually make a difference, and they actually understand where I'm coming from. And then maybe you get out there and vote. So
Right.
people like Glenn.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
we encourage you to vote Yost this coming November. And November 6th, right?
Tuesday,
Tuesday,
yeah.
November 6th. I was always drilled into my head doing
Yeah.
political ads. You
Yeah.
must say the day and the date and the year. Tuesday, November 6th, not a Thursday like the primary.
That's right.
Get out and vote. And again, we'd love you to vote for Glenn because, we support him wholeheartedly, but we just want you to vote.
Yeah.
The more people out there, the better our community is going to be. The more choices we have,
Yeah.
the better our community is going to be.
Right.
So whether my guy wins or not, I'm begging you to please go out and vote.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks everybody, and this was another episode of VONsense where we babble for a long time for some reason, sometimes.
It's very general but true.
Thanks, guys.